this bed slouches a little bit, so it's always like kind of slightly angled over. So you kind of roll to one side, so when it's like lifted up as a bench seat, you kind of tend to roll off. When it's all the way folded out, it's not so bad, but so I'm just kind of doing some ghetto modifying of it. So I took one of these strips to lay down on the top of the box so that when this backside comes out and folds down, it sits level. But I didn't want to go all the way to the inside here because it does sit at an angle and there's this extra piece of material there, and I didn't want it to leverage on the brackets in the wall to kind of lift it up. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just put it on the outside. But then I thought that's a really stupid idea, because if I have it there, then I can't fold the back up into this position and use that as a workbench or counter space or strapping something on it, like putting a bunch of boxes or something for moving. So I thought that was pretty inconvenient. But I also didn't want to go through the hassle of grabbing a whole bunch of different, I don't know, power tools and whatnot. So I just grabbed one of these strips and I screwed it in, basically corner here, a couple spots along the way just so I could flex it straight. And then while it was screwed down, I cut the length to the right side. And then, so now I have pre-drilled holes in the strip. And so in order to get it on the bottom, I have the strap holding it up, which I slid the piece behind to hold it up on this side, and it only needed to be like marginally close to aligned. I got it aligned on that end, and the screws kind of on the corner edge, so I can pivot it along the way, and then I can just basically just trace the lip, putting screws in those pre-drilled points all the way across, and then it's just done, easy pre-cut, just drops down. I am going to drop it down after this one's on and see how it sits on that piece, because there's definitely, I mean, I have wood that I can put down here to level it out some, but that's kind of the modification to make this thing still like a valid workbench. The other thing is that this box can come out, it's just like 5 or 6 bolts or whatever, and it comes out. And so you could use it as like a workbench outside of the van if you needed to, or my idea is to put some angled iron on the edge and use it as a grind box that's integrated into the van. You just unbolt it, slide it out, use it as a grind box, put it back in, put it away for the day, and you're done. All right, strips on, bed's folded out. It's, so you can see, it's kind of a weird stack. I realize it's ghetto, but that side was already hitting, and so I wanted to level it out by putting that strip and just free wood from, the backyard on there. So it's got reasonable contact point. I mean, a couple 100 pounds, like me sleeping on it, whatever. Not really a big deal. The slide still slides just fine. I think if I was going to do it different, if I really got fancy and getting this thing set up, and I did want to make it a grind box, I could use, I'd probably, I don't know, angle iron would not lift it that much, and I think if I wanted to use it as a grind edge, having a lip taller than like angle iron would be a little bit obnoxious, especially if you're doing like a feeble trick and you want to get caught on the edge there, like you want it, I don't know, pretty much as flush as possible. So then putting a stack on that to level it out wouldn't really make sense. So it almost makes more sense to just space out the bottom so the box sits more level this way. But that's a lot more work than is even necessary right now. So this will work. This is just to get me through kind of overnights at work. So it's fine. It's not going to flex much. So slide still works. Strips on the bottom. It's still clear. Sits level. free leveling system. Couple little updates. I really didn't like that this cabinet wasn't square to the lip here. It's still not like perfectly square. There's like a little bit of a lip, but it was pressed in, like, so that's the old mounting point, so it was like laid back that way. So I added another one here that is actually flush, and then here, this one was actually pretty tough to get to create like enough pressure on the back side to push this piece out, but it's flat now. In addition, we got some cabinets here. These are just like pressed in there, and I can just pick them out. They're not mounted in any way, but it's pretty solid. And so for these guys, they're not, I don't think it's gonna last. The top's pretty flimsy, but I was just super ghetto. Oh, I need to fix that screw. It popped out. Or I just missed the upright. Actually, it probably was missing the upright from sliding it over. So they're just ghetto screws, just ran straight into the sides there. So this, I mean, it's stable to a degree, but I need to fix that upper screw. That means is that this area is no longer going to be an alright spot to keep the propane. So my plan is to punch a couple holes in that board so I can tie down the propane right there. But I don't want it to stay there. It'll be fine for, well, propane will stay there. However, this Mr. Buddy heater, what I don't want is it just hanging out loose here, and that's kind of one of those things with these things, is that the like stow and go is you just grab it and go, and you know, not have stuff rattle around. So what I'm gonna do is there's mounting points on the back of this thing, and it's gonna mount just up there, and then when I need it, just pull it down and set it there. This is typically where Ozzy's food sits during the day, so it'll pretty much just be like at night or in the morning that we'll pull it down, and then otherwise it'll just hang out there. The hose can stay hooked up all the time. I'm gonna get a propane timer for that, so I can just like let it run for 1, 2, 3 hours and not worry about it, and it'll shut it off. So it'll be kind of a heat system. I did kind of get this lined up a little bit more, threw my jump pack in there just because you can use it as a battery bank. So if I want to charge it off the alternator or whatever, off the inverter, I can. It's not 100% stable. Like you can, oh, there goes the drill. You can move it a bit. So the big thing is to kind of prevent that, you just gotta kick the bottom a bit. So that's kind of where I'm at. I still got to get, this is all the stuff that basically is going to stay in here. So a lot of this stuff is going to end up in one of those drawers. I may not keep both sets of drawers. I kind of didn't really expect to. I might actually end up switching to the two drawer version because it's a little bit more stable. Ultimately, they're not going to stay this way. It's just kind of a quick fix to get me going through work. Bucket's going to be my trash bag holder. And then that'll just be, I might just drill a hole and mount it on one of these brackets so it just like hangs up, or put it on like a quick release. Actually, you know what? Let's check this out. Yeah, I mean, all right. I can put trash in there. It just hangs off the bike mount. Now that's a fixed bike mount. There is also somewhere around here. This one's movable. It's on the quick release, so you can slide it around. So this is on the plan. There's a bunch of stuff under here that is more like don't grab that much. So my plan is to kind of sort that out a little bit, but I think I'm going to do most of it tomorrow night when I'm actually waiting to wind down for the day, kind of the before you go to bed, still awake a bit. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that tomorrow. So I'm going to take all my tools and stuff with me to work, and then I could do it in the evening. So this is kind of where we sit. This last week I was trying to figure out why this inverter wasn't charging my laptop, and I kind of did a little bit of digging today just to look and see what the electronics and whatnot are going on under here. There's switches for house battery and vehicle battery, kind of some boxes and stuff. And I'm not an electrical person, so my van that was just worked on a couple weeks ago, it needed a new battery, but the battery had actually died because there's a switch up here that changes where the alternator charges either the house battery or the main battery. And when I bought this, it didn't have a house battery, so none of this was hooked up. So that switch had gotten hit and it wasn't charging the battery when I drove it. And so it died after it sat for a couple of days. And so when I took it to get it in, they said, well, it needs a new battery. So got a new battery, but then I was like, well, how much is a core charge? And I think it was like $50 or something. And I was like, well, save the old battery. I'm pretty sure it's not dead, so battery for $50. And so I still need to get some connectors to put some terminals on this, and then there's a disconnect right there. So I'll need to get some of that stuff to make it work. I don't know anything about these fuses and switches and stuff, so I'm hoping somebody else did a good job with it. And then I really just, it's pretty much everything's going to be run off propane, so I'm not putting a huge stressor on this electrical system. It's just one of those things that I got a battery for $50. The vehicle is set up to run things that way, so I haven't done it yet. And there's a NOCO, so to the inverter, and then the NOCO then charges the house battery, so you can do that like when you're driving, whatever. So there's also a water heater tank in there, and then underneath is a big water tank too, and it just goes into a foot pump system. And so kind of try to iron this out. I'm just going to use the sink like for semi-dry showers, I guess, just so I don't have to keep driving home every day. Save some time. So that's kind of my plan. Got some bins so I can put my blankets and stuff in, and then I'm going to mount the heater and the propane tank. I might bring the Dometic propane fridge out here. I don't know how much it draws, but I'm curious. I think it's probably going to take up too much space, and it's not really worth it at this point for what I'm doing. I'm figuring maybe I'll just stay 2 nights each week, so that I only have to drive each direction twice rather than 4 times. So that's kind of the plans for now. You can try it, bro. We stayed in the van last night. I didn't do nearly as much construction or organizing as I had thought. I did get the Mr. Buddy. It just mounts there. Propane sits there. There's battery bank. There's tie downs. There's the extra battery. I went to use the sink this morning, and I was just pumping water onto the floor. So I need to fix that. I didn't really do much. I put the drawers in. It's just kind of coats. Laptop charger. There's some like electric heaters in there that like you put in your pants or your jacket or your sleeping bag. And then there's just kind of like my shower stuff, wet wipes, mouthwash. There's some soap, my sleeping bag. There's some other, I think there's a hammock in there, and then basically just my snack drawer, a bunch of crackers and macaroni, some snacks, some fruit bars. That's about all I did. I did find out that the windows lose a lot of heat, so we're gonna put a focus on getting those guys sorted out.